Hi, my name is Peter Hidalgo. Really excited to hear about this Yard Farmers program. When I first read the synopsis for the show, pretty much looked like something I would write. I'm already doing exactly what we're talking about here. Moved back home a couple years ago, looking to turn the property into a farm. Started studying permaculture, a little biointensive farming, a little bit of everything. Got some chickens, got some goats, got some ducks. And we've got about 4.5 acres up here in Auburn, California. But first, let me tell you a little bit about myself. So I've had a variety of jobs over the year, that's for sure. I've done everything from working on fishing boats, wildland fire, pretty much you name it, I've done it. I've worked in marketing for Peaceful Valley Farm and Garden Supply. I've worked on incident management teams recently as a GIS analyst. So I've definitely got a pretty varied background, and I'm really passionate about permaculture. If there's one thing that I could permanently do and basically just do for life, it would be this. It'd be having a farm. Because I mean, it's a win-win situation when you really look at it. You're growing a great product for somebody that's gonna be super healthy. You're gonna make a living doing it. Even if it's not making a bunch of money, you're making a living doing that. For me, I don't need much. I live a pretty simple existence. I was living in a fifth wheel trailer when I first moved here on the property, and well, I guess that should kind of tie into where we're going with this whole thing. My dad has second triple heart bypass surgery. It's been about like 5 years ago now or so, and that really woke me up. I mean, it's not like the first one didn't, but the second one, I really felt like there was something I could do. And I wanted to move home, start farming, and really try to take an approach to more than just the problem of food and where we get it, but what it does to our bodies and everything. I mean, really, food is such an essential part of life that we take it for granted. You know, I mean, whether you're rich or poor, every single day somebody's got to eat. And how we acquire food, that is the most impactful thing in our life. How we acquire food and what we eat dictates everything. So really, I want to be able to do something that can impact on such a large scale as that. We've got this lawn that is like the size of a football field. And it's always been one of those things between me and my dad where we've kind of had this issue where he wants to turn it into a green space. And I understand. But at the same time, there can be so much more than just watering a lawn. I mean, there's so many possibilities to what you can do with it. I mean, a lawn before was just a sign of the fact that you had wealth and you didn't have to do anything with that land. And that's just nonsense nowadays. You look around, there's people watering lawns all over the place and stuff, and it's just, you know, but I think the most important thing we can do is on our own land here. When I first heard about permaculture, any inkling into closed loop systems was a small farm in Fiji, Monfront Boys Home. And apparently there they take the spent grains from a brewery, inoculate it with mushrooms, which makes a good substrate to feed to pigs. They would feed that pigs, they'd use the pig's waste into a biodigester, collect methane that would go and power the entire place there. And then at the same time, after that methane is done off-gassing, or the slurry, the pig waste, they would move that into a slurry pond, which they'd grow algae, which they could use to go back and feed the crops with. And so it's these closed loop systems that I'm really interested in, and not just growing food, but taking waste out of industrial institutions and incorporating it into farms in small local food growing systems, you know, permaculture farms that are placed strategically throughout the area. And that way you can take the waste, incorporate it somehow. You know, you got to be ingenious about that. And I think that's what's really neat about moving back home with my dad, is that it's a microcosm here. It's like a little mini world here where I'm at. We've got a good amount of junk. There's tons of stuff that's out here that's just, you know, some people consider it junk, but it's a matter of if you can use it, if you can actually reuse it in any way. And that's what I'm really looking to do, is I'm really looking to actually reuse a lot of the stuff that's on here. Everything behind me, everything that I've done so far to the farm that I'm about to show you, is all been from reused materials. You know, everything here from the greenhouse, old windows from my grandma's, the bathtub, every little thing. Literally, I haven't really purchased anything except for compost and seeds. So, and I've been making the majority of my compost out here. So really, it's I'm passionate about it. To me, this is the win-win-win situation. You know, you sell a product that's good for somebody, it does them good in the long run, right? You can make a living off of doing that, and then you get to manage the resources how you want. And I think that's really big. I think the biggest thing we can do in this day and age is to move back home, is to start growing our own food on small little local food systems. And you know, really the thing is, it's about being self-reliant. To me, this really is important. This is a huge issue, and I'd love to be a part of this Yard Farmers program because I think there's so many possibilities we can show. I've already got the permaculture design degree and I really want to learn more. I've got the land, and I've moved back home with my dad, and it's a really great dynamic too. I mean, he's a Vietnam veteran. He's got heart disease, which is something that I really want to be able to address while growing good food. You know, I mean, that's the whole point of eating good, healthy, locally grown food, is that it's good for you. So these old windows and all of this stuff here was just pretty much found on the property, except for the greenhouse plastic on the top. But other than that, you know, just repurpose and reuse as much as we possibly can around here. And that's one thing that's just extremely crucial about the whole permaculture thing, is that we can already use so much of the waste that's already here, you know, and incorporate it, just put it right back into use. I mean, there's just so many possibilities out there. It just takes creative minds and the time to be able to do it. And that's why moving back home is so important, because that's what gives you the time. If you're out there looking for a job and you're constantly trying to find a way to live, I mean, really, it's tough.
Hi, my name is Pete Hidalgo, and I'm Peter Christopher Hidalgo's father. We bought this property here in 1985. We lived in the Bay Area. My dream was always to move away from the city or the suburbs and have a place with some acreage. I grew up in Arizona around Phoenix, and my father's main livelihood, his work was shearing sheep. It was a seasonal job, but it allowed him to, it made him travel. And as a kid I would go with him, and we would go to different places, mostly up to the high country, see these big ranches that he worked on where they had the sheep, and they would spend weeks up there shearing sheep. And I always had this vision of having a ranch. I didn't really know, never belonged to the 4-H or the FFA or whatever, but it was one of those dreams that I had, to have some land and to be able to live on a farm, a ranch. My idea was that if you did that and you were able to live on a farm and produce an income, and the whole family could participate in this, in the farm, in the work, and you wouldn't have to leave home, and it would be a family thing where everyone works. And I saw that as we traveled to these ranches. But in the late 50s, in '59 actually, we moved from Arizona to California, to Fairfield, California, about 50 miles outside of San Francisco. And at that time there was a lot of orchards, and so I was around 14 at the time, and we would go out and pick during the summertime. The high school kids could go out and work in the fields picking the cherries, apricots, peaches, pears, whatever was growing up at the time. And then you earn money. But I always had a real love for the outdoors, not the hard labor. Of course, nobody has that, but it's a beautiful thing to have your own place where you can grow your own food, and maybe some animals, whatever. But it brings that that country, to be able to live in the country and to be able to use your land, other than not just your front lawn, but to have a place where you can grow your own food. When I first Pete moved back home several years ago. He had been working different jobs. He'd been down in San Diego. He had done carpentry. He's quite skilled at different jobs. But one of the things that when he came back home, he wanted had this idea of turning this into this farm. You know, and I was like, well, I don't know if we have enough land, but at the same time, after he worked here, he stayed here on the property, and he started doing these things. I had a lot of wasted space. I have some paddocks out there that had been for horses, and it was just full of stuff that I had accumulated, which wasn't really good. But anyway, he cleaned that out, and he got some goats and chickens and some ducks, and that worked out pretty good. And he's able to turn a lot of things that I had that I thought were just kind of useless. It's just a bunch of stuff that was here when I bought the property, and also stuff that I've accumulated through the years. I've had some rentals, and I bring a lot of stuff home. But he was able to utilize all that stuff, and without spending much money, was able to utilize it in some degree to help his endeavors as a farming. In his gardening, he took these windows that I had, the old wooden frame windows that we had taken from my mother's house when we put new dual pane windows in her house. And the house was built in the 50s, so it was one of the first suburban houses that were built, and it had the wooden frame windows. Well, I saved them. I figured they'd be good for something. Well, he found the right thing to do. He built a little greenhouse with them, with the windows, and with maybe, I think, a shower door. And he put it all together, and it, I don't know if he'll show you pictures of it, but it came out pretty nice. And that's just one example of the things he's been able to recycle, to utilize the things that are here without having to go out and buy something. And this shows me that he could really, take the things that are here that are, I feel, not very useful, but turn them into something useful, and without going out and spending a lot of money, which is a real good deal, because it gives you a big return. Like I said, we've been here since '85, and it's the mortgage isn't that bad, so anything that he does, it's very minimal cost. So I think him planting these fruit trees out here, the grapes that he has, all these things that he's done, is just showing that there is a lot of potential here, and a lot of things that will work. I know that when he first brought the idea to me, when he first moved back home, I wasn't very receptive, because I'm going to be 70 this year, and you get set in your ways, and you want just the old things the way they are. But as he's done these things throughout these last couple of years, I see that it's really beneficial for the property, and in the long term, it'll be really something that will enhance this property and give it more value, and also at the same time something that we can use, whether it's a fruit, the chickens with the eggs, all these things that are really good right now. So I think it's going to work.